record. Okay. All right, I think it's recording. So I'm going to make this super quick, and then you can just ask me whatever questions that you have. And then those of you who are watching the recording, just shoot me an email if you have any follow-up questions. Like, I want to get to your individual needs, not just like broad needs. So that's what I want to do. I want to answer your individual questions. So, I know Maria knows me already, so I'm not going to give a whole big intro, but if you're watching the recording, I'm an NTP, I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, a certified personal trainer, and I'm a teacher. So this is like combining all the things that I love into one. And sleep, definitely one of my favorite things. So I just kind of want to share with you a little bit about like some maybe misconceptions about sleep, and then kind of get into what your particular needs are. So a lot of people don't know that sleep and stress are intertwined. It's not even possible to separate them. So if you are stressed out all day, you cannot expect your body to just go to sleep at night, right? It's like your cortisol is out of whack. It's not going to be good. So that's why we need to realize that taking care of our sleep means taking care of our stress. They're not able to be separated. And so the stages of sleep, you know, there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, REM, and deep. And you need REM and deep. So quality and quantity are not the same thing. If you get 8 hours, but you're not getting as much deep sleep as you need, you're not gonna feel good in the morning. So just know that quality and quantity, that is a big misconception. Sleep debt is a real thing where if you don't get enough sleep, you are literally going to go into a sleep debt, and you can catch up by taking naps or, you know, sleeping longer, sleeping in more than you normally would. But sleep debt is a real thing, and we'll talk about what the effects of sleep debt and stress are. And just so everyone knows, so we're clear, like 8 hours is the minimum because that is, there have been studies to show that is like, that's a pretty good amount. You might need more. I definitely need more, but 8 hours is a good minimum. And just so you know, when you don't sleep well, here are some of the like physiological effects. If you have one bad night, this is just one bad night of sleep, you will definitely have insulin problems. So that means that you are going to crave more carbs, but you are not going to, your body's not going to handle them well, is basically what that means. It's connected to premature aging. People who sleep less, in this one study specifically, had 60% less muscle mass than those who slept 8.5 hours. So there's a big difference in how your body physiologically, is that a word? Yes. How it reacts when you are in a sleep debt or sleep deficit. Your hormones are going to be all out of whack. You're going to have too much cortisol, not enough testosterone, not enough melatonin. All that good stuff is severely affected. And then every hour that you are looking at a screen, it delays your melatonin production. So obviously throughout the day, blue light does still affect you, but especially after dark, your melatonin is going to be delayed. Like, you will not be able to produce it the longer that you're looking at screens. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. Oops. And then here are just some common struggles, but I want to know, so Maria, what are some of your sleep struggles? Like, what do you particularly struggle with?
Mostly waking up in the middle of the night.
Okay, and is there a particular time?
It's usually a couple times, usually like 2, sometimes around 5.
So between 2 and 5?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you notice anything when you do wake up? Like, is it because you're hungry, because you're hot, because you're anxious? Like, have you noticed any patterns in that?
Sometimes it's because I'm hot. I would say that's like the majority of it.
Okay. So you never wake up and feel like you need to eat something, or?
That's rare. Usually, sometimes drink. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'll feel like I haven't drank in like 4 years. So.
Yes, totally. I hear you. And you don't have to answer this because I don't know where you're at with this, but I notice personally when I drink alcohol, it's like I for sure wake up, and it is like scientifically proven, but like waking up between those hours can usually, and if you wake up hot, that can be related to the liver. So I've experienced that. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but just so you know, that definitely has affected my sleep a lot in the past. So I try, like if I'm gonna drink alcohol, I'll do it earlier in the night, or like, you know, like a happy hour, so that by the time I go to but I know that a lot of people struggle with either falling or staying asleep. Maybe it's just anxiety. You know, a lot of people say I wake up an hour before my alarm because I'm just afraid I'm gonna miss my alarm, and that kind of stuff can really affect our sleep. If you get a second wind before bed, that is a big sign. So like usually around 10 p.m., you get your best sleep, by the way, between 10 and 2. But so you want to go to bed by 10 p.m. regardless if you can. But if you get that second wind around like 10, 11, 12 p.m., that is a really good sign that your cortisol is all out of whack. So that's just something to pay attention to. Looking for those signs can really help you determine what's going on. And if you don't know, ask me. That's what I'm here for. And then if you have kids, obviously that is a whole nother ball game. I don't have kids yet, so I feel like I can't really speak to this super well. But just know that you're doing the best you can, get sleep when you can, and this too shall pass. Okay, and then so getting into like, okay, so how do we fix it? Because that's why you're all watching this, right? Lifestyle is number one. You have to reduce your stress to sleep. That's all there is to it. Movement is also huge. So if you are, we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but if you're exercising too much or too little, those can both be an issue. So we'll talk about that more. Nutrition is obviously huge. Food is medicine, but it's not the whole picture. We'll talk about some specific strategies you can use to help you sleep better through nutrition. And then supplements are amazing, and I love them for certain things, but they are not, you can't out-supplement a bad lifestyle or a bad diet, right? So just knowing that if we have the other pieces in place, there are supplements that can help us. And then just some really basic lifestyle tips, which you probably already know. We've talked about stress a lot, your caffeine intake. I love coffee, don't get me wrong, but I know if I have it after a certain time that I am going to have trouble sleeping, and some people are more sensitive than others. If you're the type of person who can drink a cup of coffee and go to sleep for 8 hours, that's also not normal, and that would be something to look at, like meaning you probably have some adrenal stuff going on or something like that. A bedtime routine is huge. People really don't even give this the credit that it needs, because kids always have a bedtime routine, right? They like brush their teeth and then they read a story, and like they're literally telling their body that it's time to calm down, it's time to go to sleep, and we don't do that as adults. So that's a really big one, and I would be happy to like workshop this with anyone one-on-one who wants to figure out like, okay, what would be a good routine for me? Moving enough, but not too much. So moving throughout the day tells your body like, hey, I'm alive, I'm a human, it's the daytime, I'm moving around. So it's like helping your hormones know that it's the daytime, especially since we're indoors all day. If we're sitting at a desk all day indoors, not getting sunshine, how does our body know the difference between when it's dark outside and we're sleeping and not moving? So moving a little bit, moving enough. But if we're over exercising, that's going to put too much stress on the body, and that goes back to that stress piece. And then connecting with people, that is a huge one, especially for those of us who have anxiety related sleep struggles. Just talking with your people, being around humans, especially during COVID. And then being human during the day, like I was saying, go outside, move your body, like be a human, do normal human things. Don't just sit at your desk and work yourself to death, because that will for sure screw up your sleep. We talked about routine already, and then light is probably the number one thing, and I could talk about this all day long, but I'll talk about it more in a minute. Not all day. Your room temperature lasts, honestly, the colder, the better typically. You want it to be really cold in there, and then you can bundle up, that's totally fine. But about like 65 to 68 is supposedly the best sleeping temperature. Okay, and then stress. The parasympathetic state is when your body is calm, it is able to relax, it's able to sleep. Sympathetic is when stress is high and all of these things happen. So cortisol, when cortisol is high chronically, cortisol is a good thing. We want it to rise to wake us up in the morning, otherwise you're not alive. But then it should start to slowly come down during the day. At night, it should be all-time low, no cortisol, all melatonin, and then it'll come back up the next day to wake you up. But when it's chronically just high, that means that you're breaking down your muscle, you are not producing melatonin, and it's really inflammatory for the body. So there's a lot that can go into that, but I'm not gonna talk all day about cortisol. And then just some ways to stress less, using smart workouts, like we said, not too much, not too little, eating enough food. This is like one of the #1 things that I see, especially with women, is that they're literally just not eating enough. One friend, I just told her, like, why don't you just try eating more at dinner time and see if you sleep through the night? And shocker alert, she slept through the night. So that can be a really big one. Sugar intake. This is a whole thing, but it goes back to blood sugar regulation, which I can go into another day. But when you're not even just sugar, like just when you're really high in carbohydrates, that will just put you on this blood sugar roller coaster, which is connected to cortisol. Food intolerances, another huge topic, but that can also lead to high stress. Learning to say no is probably the hardest one for some of us. Like if you're a type 2, type 3 Enneagram, it's really hard for us to say no. And then your toxic load, that's just like all of the toxins in your life, whether that's personal care products, whether that's your water, whether that's air pollution. There's just toxins everywhere. And then we all know meditation's like, oh yeah, you're stressed out, just meditate. And it's like, whatever your version of meditation is, whether that's prayer or reading or like taking a bath, it doesn't have to be sitting there breathing. You know, there can be many different variations of that. And then light, I'll try not to talk for too long because I want to get through this, but this is fascinating. Like, if you are interested in getting better sleep, do some research on light, how it affects your circadian rhythm. There's like studies that literally show watching the sunrise, like the sun rays from the sunrise specifically, hitting your retinas and hitting your skin starts your circadian rhythm. I was like, whoa, that's insane. So that is a huge one that I was really interested in. Maria and anyone else who's gonna watch the recording, there's this podcast. So Well-Fed Women is the name of the podcast. And the interview that she did was with Andy Mant, Andymant. It was the most fascinating podcast on sleep I have ever heard. So I would highly recommend you listen to that if you're like serious about getting your sleep fixed. Light affects your natural flow of hormones. Like we talked about, that cortisol and melatonin directly related to light. Whether it's blue light, whether it's sunlight, like it's very, very affected. And then there's another study that I thought was fascinating that they put the person in like a completely dark room, no, not a single thing of light. And then they shined a laser beam, literally a little laser beam on the back of his leg, and it affected his sleep. It's like, what the heck? Because how are we gonna do that? Like, how do we get rid of all light sources while we're sleeping? It's not possible, so just do the best you can. My Manta sleep mask is amazing. Like, cannot recommend it more, and I have a link for it, I think, coming up. But it's like, let me just go get it. Let me show you. Back. Okay, so why I love this is because you can adjust it. So look, you can like take it off and you can move the eye things around because everyone's faces are different. So it's like, it's the best thing ever because you can adjust it to fit your face up, down, side to side. So highly recommend the Manta sleep mask for trying to at least block out what you can. Obviously, what are they called? Blackout shades. Those are great too. But I super love this because blackout shades still don't get 100% of the light out, and these do. Maria, do you have any questions about that so far?
No.
Okay, cool. And then just the basics of nutrition, Maria, I'm sure you probably already know this, but just balancing your macros is going to be huge. 40, 30, 30, if you're not familiar, means 40% of your calories should come from fat, 30% should come from protein, and 30% should come from carbs. And obviously that can change from person to person, but that's a really good starting point, especially when your blood sugar is out of control, because that will help you balance it to a place where your body is going to be more stable and not going up and down through the day. Just eliminating inflammatory foods, like if you know you don't do well with dairy, don't eat dairy. And I'm very guilty of this because sometimes I just want the ice cream. It happens. Adding in more nutrient-dense foods, which there's some nutrient-dense kind of healing foods over here. And then eating enough, we talked about. Maria, drinking water with electrolytes. I know you probably do that already, but maybe if you're noticing like you're waking up thirsty, kind of upping that a little bit. And then we kind of already talked about alcohol and how it really does affect your sleep a lot. So those are just some very basic nutrition for sleep. And then the supplements that I love. Maria, have you ever tried the TriMag yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Does it?
Love it.
Do you love it?
Yeah.
It's not just me. And I don't make money off of this. So if you're watching this recording, you're like, she's trying to sell me something. I literally don't make money off of anything that I'm talking about. So TriMag it's by Empirica, and I'm going to have a link for it in a couple slides, but it is literally the best. It's 3 different types of magnesium. So one thing that people don't know is they'll be like, oh, well, I've got a magnesium supplement, but it's only one type. And so citrate and glycinate, one is for muscle recovery, really, is most of it, and relaxation, and one is for like a laxative, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but if that's all that's in it, that's not good. So TriMag has both of those, but it also has threonate, which is the only magnesium that gets through the blood-brain barrier. So it's the only one that's gonna like calm your brain. So the other ones will calm your muscles and your digestive system, but threonate's the only one that's going to help calm your brain. So those of you, especially with anxiety, like I noticed an instant difference. I was like, oh, I can like feel my body relaxing. And I'm out of it right now and I can tell the difference. So TriMag is number 1. CBD can be amazing. I am personally a fan of full spectrum CBD because I feel like the way God made it. But anyways, that's your, if you can't do full spectrum, that's fine too. Like my husband's a firefighter, he can't do that. So like there are THC-free CBDs. Valerian root is really good, again, for that calming. You can have it in a tea, you can have it in a pill. I like the tea, and you can make it part of like your bedtime routine and be like, oh, it's time to calm down now. Your body will remember that. Tart cherry juice can actually be really good for sleep as well. A couple hours, I wouldn't take it like right before bed as like a shot, but a couple hours before bed, I would take that. And then melatonin, like I said, everything in moderation. Like I don't think we need to be using melatonin every day, but if you're in a bind and like you just really need to get some sleep, like take a little bit. I'm not super strict on that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of information. I feel like, oh my gosh, where do I start? I would start with bedtime routine because it's like the lowest barrier to entry. Stress is the most important, but that's like the hardest thing. So what I would say, start with a bedtime routine, whether that is, okay, 1 hour before bed, I'm not gonna look at any devices at all. Or if I do, I'm definitely going to put on some blue light blockers that are good quality. So that would be like an exception if you have to look at a screen. So no blue light an hour before bed is like a must. Work on balancing blood sugar. Again, this is pretty simple as far as like 40, 30, 30 in your macros. If you're like, I don't even know what that means, send me an email and I would be happy to talk about that with you. But that can be one of the biggest reasons. If you're waking up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. and you didn't drink any alcohol, then it is for sure your blood sugar. And then stress management, like I said, I know that's the hardest thing to work on. So whether that is just taking like one simple step a day of like, I'm going to take 10 deep breaths before I lay down to go to sleep, or something like that, where you're just trying to make one small step in the right direction would be my suggestion. Okay, so I'm going to send everyone who asked for the recording, and Maria, I'm going to send you guys the link to, like the download of this presentation so you can get all these links because they're all linked to the websites that I recommend. So TriMag is that magnesium supplement. Here's a sleep mask. Palm Map is really good for especially people with like high anxiety at nighttime. I usually just put on like the sounds, like the rain or whatever, but they have guided meditations. They have all kinds of stuff on there. The Blue Blocks glasses are expensive, but the best blue light blocking glasses, and they'll last forever. So I would just recommend getting one good pair and then you can just have it forever. Whereas like these other blue light blockers literally don't even block all the blue light. So they can call it that, but there's actually blue and green light. There's all kinds of lights. Blue blocks it all. Highly recommend that. And then if you're like, I need some workouts that are easy, not too hard, and I can do them in 30 minutes, I have a bunch of workouts in my Fit From Home program, which I'll share you guys. I also have a free Facebook group, which I'll share with you in a minute. And then Whoop is this little guy. If you're like, I need help tracking my sleep, I love my Whoop. It is just an app that you have on your phone. Like this is not a screen. It's not like an Apple Watch. It's literally just a band. It tracks your HRV, it tracks your sleep, it tracks all kinds of things. And then you use an app to like go through that data. Okay. Questions, Maria? And or like, what do you need help with sleep-wise?
I think for me, like, I think like the screens are probably one of the hardest. Yeah. Only because I feel like I have gotten into a bad habit my whole life of like falling asleep with like the TV on. Mm-hmm. And so like I feel like I kind of need like noise in the background to sleep. Yeah. But then I'm like, that's probably not the best thing. So sometimes I'll have like my tablet on and I'll put on Netflix and I'll flip it upside down so at least there's less light. But I still feel like that's not the best case scenario. So like I don't really know how to like address that because even listening to like noise, like the rainfall stuff, that helps, but it's just not as like effective for me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would look through the Calm app and just see, because they have a ton of sounds. So like, I don't know, kind of play with it and see if there are any that you do like. And then if you need that like TV sound in the background, I would just get the sleep mask or a sleep mask. Mm-hmm. That, I mean, honestly, this is like $30. They're normally like 15. It's not that much more, and it's way better. So I would recommend getting the Manta, because then at least you can block the light out and still have the sound. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would do that as far as the noise piece goes. And then I know you were saying about waking up in the middle of the night. So do you notice, like after me going through all that, do you think you can maybe pinpoint like why maybe you are waking up?
It might be like the blood sugar thing, because I feel like especially during like quarantine, like I definitely haven't been eating like 40 30 30 and tracking my macros as like I used to pretty consistently, and then everything kind of went to whack. So I think it might be that. Like, I don't wake up hungry, which is funny, but I do wake up. And then, like, I kind of just lay there, and I'm like, I don't really know why. So it might just be that, like, my blood sugar is waking me up, and I'm not necessarily, like, feeling those hunger cues, but yeah.
Yeah, and not all people wake up hungry. I would say if you're like severely under eating, that would be when you're gonna wake up hungry. But your blood sugar crash can wake you up just from the cortisol. So like when your blood sugar crashes, your cortisol rises. So it would be just, yeah, you might not be necessarily hungry, but it would still wake you up.
Okay, that makes sense.
I just didn't know if you were under eating or not, but it sounds like
no.
Okay.
But yeah, so no, I definitely think that balancing my blood sugar will definitely help. And I definitely notice a difference when I take magnesium versus not. Like, I sleep much better, obviously, with magnesium. So when I get out of whack with like my routine in general, and I forget that everything is like, I don't eat right, and my magnesium and blah blah blah. So yeah, no, I definitely notice a difference when I am eating and drinking enough and taking magnesium versus not. So I think, and I think also, like, when I wear sleep masks, when I rarely do, it definitely makes a difference. But I think, like, for me, I'm such a creature of habit that, like, once I get into a routine, it's easier to stay in the routine, and once I get off of it, it's hard for me to get to do any of it. So
Oh, totally. You know what I was thinking of doing is like a 7-day sleep challenge where like whoever wants to join, I just like, I don't know, it could be on Instagram or whatever, but I just send you like, okay, here's your goal today. Like you need to do X, Y, Z, and then like adding something the next day. I don't know, just to like help you get started, because I know it's so hard when you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do 5 things. Let's just do one thing today.
Right. And build on it. Yeah, I think that would be amazing. For me, like, I love to make, I'm such a list person, so type A. Sometimes I make a list and then like I try to stick, like, that's easier for me. So if I look at like my phone and I have like, all right, do these things, and then that helps me get into like the routine. But I feel like, yeah, definitely like working on one thing and then the next and then the next. Like, you don't have to do it all at once. But once you get one thing down, like, it's easier to be like, all right, cool, I already have like a routine. Now let me add in like one more thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll brainstorm that, and then I'll send that information out to like anyone who asked for the recording, because I'm sure that'd be something we can all use a little help on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, any other questions that you had as far as like your personal needs, like that I can answer for you?
No, I think like that was like really like helpful. Like, I feel like sometimes I know this stuff, and sometimes it's just more helpful to like have it reiterated, and especially like knowing like the blue light thing, and like just like really focusing on like stress and blood sugar and things like that, because it's like all of those stressors are going to build up throughout like a day, and I feel like it's nice to like have that reiterated and then be like, oh yeah, that's what I need to focus on. Those are the things that are like really important to sleep. So I feel like I know these things, and now it's to like put it into work.
Totally. We can all use those reminders, because I'll go through periods of time where I'm like working on my computer until I go to bed. I'm like, why am I doing this? And luckily, I feel like I have very good sleep genes, so I can still usually sleep no matter what. But I definitely notice a difference in the quality. So like with the Whoop, it's really cool. I don't know if I showed you this, but yeah, you can like see how much deep sleep, how much REM sleep. And so I notice a difference in that when I'm like on point, or like if I had a drink too close to bed, I'm like, well, that's my own fault. I can't even be mad about it.
No, the Whoop sounds really cool. I think I'm probably gonna get one.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have my contact, obviously, Maria, but for anyone watching, my Instagram is Welcome Within Co. There's on my website, my email. If you're interested in the home workouts and like nutrition education, more stuff on sleep and stress, that would be welcomewithin.teachable.com. And I have a free Facebook group where I post workouts, I post recipes, all that good stuff. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Please feel free to reach out to me, but Thanks, Maria, for coming and everyone watching the recording. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and just shoot me an email when you got this and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
All right, bye, Maria.
Bye.